Hi, I'm D.L. Simmons, Professor of Printmaking here at University of Texas at Tyler, and I am honored and grateful to be one of the award recipients for this year's 41st Annual Faber Birren Color Award Show. I'd like to say thank you to the juror Michael Neumeister, the Assistant Curator of the American Federation of the Arts in New York. And I'd like to give a hearty congratulations to the other artists who participated in the place. I'm here because of my work, Yellum, which is about primordial matter. And for me, what strikes me about color is just what Faber Birren talked about, is that it's something original, it's primordial, it's something to respond to, it's intrinsic to how we experience the world and the instances and the emotions we have around that. And I'm really interested in capturing those moments and dealing with color in a way to create a way in and a way to surprise my audience within the narratives that I create in the vignettes in my work. I would like to think about my work as a way to communicate larger ideas about life and experience through shared emotion and response to color, form, space, and symbolism. Yellum is about environment and our response to it to some extent. The image I found here was actually not doctored. I do a lot of work, and there's some other things hidden in the collage and handwork and the drawing and stuff I do before I run my halftones. But the original image is this young couple, or young group of kids swimming and hanging out on a dock right next to a 55-gallon drum of treatment chemicals. And I found this image, it was just so shocking to me, and they were so lackadaisical about hanging out right next to all these chemicals. And so this work was about kind of that impetus for like, what's the other guy coming to stop them? Is it protecting them? I'm currently experimenting with some new processes. I'm doing epoxy enamel and acrylic transfers with toner. I use Bouquard spray stencils. I'm using epoxy flakes. I'm using phosphorant materials and color reactive paints so that some of my works actually respond to under different lighting situations and shift. Some of the work I'm currently playing around with in low light, the images change and new images emerge when the environment around the work changes. Thank you very much for this opportunity and platform that I can use to share my work, Yellow.
Hi, I'm Tony Woolner. I'm an architect and also a printmaker. I designed this house in 1971. It's got a high vaulted ceiling. It has a lot of glass which opens up onto a beautiful landscape in the distance. We went on a trip to Bangkok, Thailand, and there was a temple there that has the interior walls covered with the Rama story, which was the basis of my print. There's a key battle in the sequence of stories around the wall of the temple, and it was between Ramos, the hero, and the evil people that were like terrorists back in the 12th century. And he did this to win the love of his life. This is my collagraph plate that I made to make the print. It's a cardboard that I use as a background, and I trace over on a piece of acetate the drawing from the blow-up of the photograph. And on that, I use spray adhesive to put the string down onto the acetate. Then I paint over colors onto the acetate plate. After that, I take a Stonehenge paper, which is printmaker's paper, and I roll on a black background. Then I have a printing press. I run these two, the plate and the paper, through the press, and everything is transferred from one to the next. I invented this technique because it's non-toxic, because in the beginning, I thought the printmaking material was very toxic to use. I'd like to thank the Stanford Art Association for the opportunity to share my work and to explain my technique. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Diane Etienne, and I'd like to talk a little bit about my work. I do a lot of printmaking, and this is a good example of the type of work I do. It's called Dream World, and it's a monoprint, meaning a one-off print or a one-of-a-kind print. It's made of oil-based ink on rice paper, and I've also enhanced it with a little bit of pastel. So the black and the blue lines that you see are made of pastel. I often see creatures or faces or figures in my prints especially, and I like to enhance them and bring them out by putting lines to draw attention to them. So that's also a good example because I really love color, and it is really, this pieces, the colors have really worked well. I think they really transferred well in the printmaking process. I also like to play with composition and forms and shapes, so I'm doing that here. I saw, for example, that this big red shape looked like lips, and so I enhanced them and brought out that big face. And there are a lot of other figures around it too. So I also paint and draw. I do a lot of collage, and I do sculpture as well. And I find that working in so many different mediums is very stimulating. I like to switch back and forth. I'll do a block of time, for example, I'll do printmaking, and then I'll go back to painting, which is much more detailed and realistic because I like to do still lifes and portraiture and things like that. So, and yeah, I go from painting and then I go back to printmaking, which is more expressive, but at the same time, I take ideas I have about a composition I want to work on, or something I've learned about, using two colors together, and so I transpose that into different mediums. So, yeah, that's the type of work I do.
Hey everybody, my name is Heidi Bruckner and I'm here in Oakland, California. Just want to say I'm very honored to have received first place for the Faber Birren Color Award, and I wanted to tell you a little bit about my work. Generally speaking, I believe people are interested in people, whether it's because of their outward appearance, their gestures, their personality, and my work is based on that curiosity, and hopefully the viewer can become part of that observation. My portraits are individualistic narratives which explore a personage through self-presentation, facial expression, and gestures. And since the pandemic, I've been focusing solely on portraiture because I've been missing people a lot and really feeling the need to concentrate on studying them. Also, since the pandemic, I've been overwhelmed with the pileup of packaging materials from delivery, so I have decided to, instead of throwing them away, use them as an unstretched base layer surface for my paintings. This one here is called Seeing is Believing, and it's of a friend of mine in happier time. He's seen here in his throne, kind of lording over his backyard, and it's been sort of a way of visiting friends during the pandemic, especially during the height where we really couldn't see anybody. And this one is called Squatters Club Cuba, of some rockers that I met in a squatters club in Cuba. Despite the language barrier, we really hit it off well, and their way of communicating was to show me their tattoos and to drop a lot of band names, and it was a really fun kind of experience or interaction. And it's been my way of sort of traveling during the pandemic as well. I employ a lot of frontal compositions that are usually to scale, a lot of distortion of form and space. Oftentimes I employ symbolism and of course an expressive use of color which takes you into a slightly different world. And I think all these things enhance the visual activity and the conceptual impact. So I just wanted to say thank you to the Stanford Art Association and also to the juror Michael Neumeister, who's from the American Federation of the Arts in New York City. It was just fantastic to be granted an award in the name of the great Faber Birren.